The Talent Review and Succession Planning module is going to help you review talent, identify potential risk and impact of loss, identify the right person for the right job, maximize the value of talent meetings, calibrate talent and access through interactive discussions, as well as manage talent pools and succession plans. So let's take a look. I'm going to log into the solution as a manager. We'll take a look at the manager's view of succession plans that have been established for one of his employees. I'm logged in as Robert Jackman. He's going to go to his My Team tab, which is what you see here. On the My Team tab, as I scroll down, I see the My Team tile. I'll select that. I'm going to take a look at Brian Joseph. On the left, I see a link for succession planning. I'm going to select that now. I see that a succession plan has been created for Brian Joseph. You're able to create succession plans for people, for jobs, and for positions. As a succession plan has been created for a person, you'll be able to see that you have appropriate candidates slated from your employee pool from your organization to make sure that in the event that a key person leaves your organization, that someone is ready and available to easily move into that role. Let's take a look. Here, under Brian Joseph Succession, if I select that, I'll see the name of the plan, description, and the type. In this case, it was incumbent. Remember, I said that succession plans can be created for the person or the incumbent, for a job, or for a position. I can see that this plan's status is active, and the current incumbent is Brian Joseph. As I scroll down, I see that there are several candidates, not to be confused with recruiting candidates. Candidates in this case is referring to employees that have been slated to be in this succession plan. So I see Ann Jeffries, Chad Miller, Curtis Fetty, Elizabeth Brown, and other employees. I can also see their current degrees of readiness and their ranking. If I am the manager of this succession plan, I would have the ability to go in and make edits to any identifying information for that candidate's qualifications to be moved up or moved down within that succession plan. So in this case, taking a look at Ann Jeffries, for example, she's been in this plan for quite a long time. We need to make sure that we're providing Ann with the tools necessary to properly be groomed and developed to move into Brian's role once he decides to leave, if that indeed is the case. Right now, we've identified that her readiness is 1 to 2 years. You can select from configurable options to help you identify the degrees of readiness for the candidates in your succession plans. Her current ranking is 2, meaning she is behind one other successor that we have identified as the most likely person to move into Brian's role should he decide to leave. This succession plan tool is going to make sure that you have properly identified what you're going to need from a talent perspective in the future, not only tomorrow, but today as well. As we move further down the succession plan, I can see that Brian is also a candidate within another plan. So yes, he has a succession plan that has been created for him, but he is also a member of another succession plan where he has been identified as a candidate, where he is being developed to move into that role should that opportunity become available in the future. And the same details and information are available in this succession plan as well. At the top, I need to point out that Brian's current risk of loss has been identified as high, his impact of loss has been identified as high, and his job criticality is high. So let me illustrate this further. He's the director of payroll. The risk of loss refers to the likelihood that Brian is going to leave our organization. The impact of his loss refers to how hurt are we going to be as an employer should Brian leave. And indeed, if your director of payroll suddenly decides to voluntarily leave your organization tomorrow, that might be a problem. Job criticality. How important is his role to the organization? These are subjective values that have been denoted by either human resources or by his manager. So we know that Brian is someone that we want to make sure feels that he has been presented with proper career development opportunities and that he feels engaged and connected with how important he is to us. We're going to be looking at another tool in just a bit called Talent Review, which is going to give you the online automated capability to make sure that employees like Brian are paid the proper attention that they deserve to make sure that they don't leave your organization. I am logged in as an HR administrator. His name is Curtis. Just like the other employee that we were looking at, Robert Jackman, he is presented with a variety of tabs across the top that allow him to access various data and modules based upon his role and responsibility. So in this case, in his role as an HR administrator, he would go to My Client Groups. In My Client Groups, he scrolls down and he goes to Talent Review. Let's take a look at that now. On Talent Review, he sees all of the talent review conversations that are currently being managed under his responsibility. Now, what is a talent review? Have you ever met with any of your department leadership to have a conversation about their talent needs as they currently exist today, and what about their future needs? If this has ever happened within your organization, this document is going to allow you to automate and track the conversations within those talent reviews, making sure that you have documented the tasks that have been assigned to individuals, and to look at how successful your talent reviews and plans of action have been in making sure that you have the right people in the right place at the right time. So in this case, Curtis is responsible for documenting and tracking several talent reviews at this time. We would like to look at Robert Jackman's. So all I have to do is at the top here, let's put in Robert Jackman's name. Now I am able to narrow down my scope to just the talent reviews that have been held for his team. Here, if I go to Conduct Meeting, I can see an online view of all of Robert Jackman's team. Here I can see, for example, across a 9-box configurable grid of potential talent, rising talent, top talent, inconsistent talent, key talent, adaptable talent, mismatched talent, solid talent, and then expert talent. These are all configurations. You could have a 4-box view, you can have a 6-box view. That's entirely up to you. For demo purposes, we're using a 9-box view. I can see that Brian Joseph is in my top talent. If I look at my display options and I turn on my impact of loss, it will highlight for me those that are considered high risk of loss. And we already know that Brian has been identified as a high risk of loss. If I concurrently display his risk of loss, now I see an orange triangle. That lets me know that Brian Joseph is absolutely someone that I need to work on and mentor. Let's do what we can to make sure that Brian doesn't leave our organization. He is critical to our success. So if I highlight Brian and I go up here to Actions, I'm able to add a task. Perhaps I need to schedule a meeting. Maybe I need to get more information. Maybe I need to present something to Brian or research something. I can do a variety of things. And maybe I need to prioritize the status of that particular task. Very high, high, medium, low, very low. Maybe I would like to assign it to someone else. Right now, it's going to default assigned to me. Okay, so I am able to identify that person, put in the task, search for future roles. Maybe what we need is to present Brian with a challenging role or opportunity, or assign him to a fantastic project that we have underway. We're going to do what we can to document those opportunities and assign them to the appropriate individuals, and make sure we're tracking how successful those actions were in keeping Brian on our team. And how do we do that? Well, if I simply go to View Prior Ratings, I can see where Brian was on our grid from some time ago. So this is going to assist you in making sure, after you've negotiated all of your conversations, reviewed all the talent within your organization, that you know that the information that you relayed and captured, those things that you took action on, were effective and they were not effective. And you can see on the color coding what degrees of change were made from the last time you held the talent review with this team. Let's go back to our current meeting. I'll turn off the designation for impact of loss and risk of loss. Do you know whether or not you have appropriate representation of, say, for example, women in leadership? You can also display that in our display view. Do you know if you have an appropriate distribution of top talent across ethnicities. You can display that as well. This is just an example of the view that you have at your disposal using our talent review. You're also able to include information such as succession plans. So if you would like to look at Brian Joseph's succession plan alongside of any talent review conversation that you're having, you're going to be able to pull that information up. Take those individuals and pull them into your talent review grid, making sure that you are accurately, closely monitoring the talent progress of all individuals within a respective team. Teams can be all of those individuals that report to a particular manager. They can also be ad hoc included within a talent review by simply searching for those persons based upon profile criteria. In addition to including succession plan information, you can also include talent pools. A talent pool allows you to create a list of all of those individuals that you think meet specific criteria of your choosing. For example, in this case, we created a talent pool for emerging leaders. So all of those individuals that I, as a manager or an administrator of a talent review, I can put all of those employees that I think meet my criteria for emerging leaders into what we call a talent pool. Once they're in a talent pool, they can be associated with my talent review, and I can track and monitor their talent progress accordingly. No one else in the market has anything close to a talent review tool. But can't you see how this is going to help you to ensure that you have the right people in the right place at the right time, and that you are aware of the talent needs of both your teams and throughout your entire organization?